Okay. So we were having a little bit of technical difficulties. The Eventbrite page went down, which is crazy. And then some people saying that they were unable to get in. The link should be available. If you go back to the Eventbrite page, you should be able to see it. Um, yeah, let me just, this is crazy. So also what I want to show y'all real quick, I'll get to this in a second. Also, real quick, I want to show y'all something. I don't know what's going on with Eventbrite, but what I would like for y'all to do, and I'm going to extend this courtesy out even to those who did the general admission. Although those who pay the VIP, they're going to get the exclusive YouTube only Q&A. But go to Kingdom Harbinger Ministries YouTube channel or the Kingdom Harbinger Ministries YouTube channel and click the link in the community tab, this link that I have there, so that you can get access to the document that you would need to follow along with this presentation. All right? So just give me a few more minutes. We're going to get started. I'm going to try to, the less amount of maintenance, the better. I'm here by myself trying to work this stuff out. So forgive me for the delay. But there is this about, 35 people already here. So half the people weren't able to get in. I got a couple of emails from some people saying that they could not get in. But y'all should be able to get in. I mean, it should be accessible now. Let me see. Let me check real quick. Let's see. How many people is in here? Let me take a look. Yeah, it's about 33 people in here. Yes, 33 people in here. So I'm going to give it another 5 minutes while I work out some technical stuff, and then I'm going to get right to work immediately. But there are 55 people in here. So, you know, everybody should be able to get in here. Let me see what's going on real quick. Let me check. See if I got anything. Okay. So for everybody that's in here, how was you able to get in and other people are having issues? I'm not sure. Talk to me. I can see y'all in the chat. Oh, you have to sign up. And you have to sign up. Okay. Well, I'm not going to be talking from here. I'm only talking right here, right now, because I'm behind the camera. But I'll be in front of the camera where the audio will improve. Okay. Somebody says email link. Okay. So you got the email link. Yeah, the email gave me a link. I don't know what's going on. You have to sign into Eventbrite. Register your email. Okay. I don't want nobody to miss this. I gotta have to log into Eventbrite. Okay. So hey, y'all do me a favor. Whoever's following me on Instagram at Kingdom Moments, follow me on Facebook on the Ron Shields. So I didn't get to post on my Divine Prospect page. Whoever's following me on YouTube, please do me a favor. If you see anybody comment on any of the posts that I made on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, please let them know that they have to log into Eventbrite and or to check their spam and their email. All right. And there is a quick registration when you come into here, because I'm not doing this on YouTube. This is on StreamYard. You have to give your first, last name, and your email in order to get into this webinar. Right now, there's about 40 people in here. So, I mean, I guess more people are coming in. Somebody says had to register to Eventbrite. When I purchased the ticket, Eventbrite, I had to enter my email. I have multiple emails, so I have to remember the email I used when I first. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. So we got 40 people in here already. We sold 75 tickets. So it's 30, almost half the people is not here. It's like 35 people missing. So again, I'm gonna give it another couple of minutes, let them come on in. Again, please stalk my social media pages on YouTube at Kingdom Harbinger. Make sure you go to the community tab as well. Click that link and download that file. Or you may not be able to download it because it's public and I don't want everybody to get access to it, but you'll be able to view it. All right, just click that link and view the document as we go through this PowerPoint. Also, please check my posts on the community tab, check my videos on YouTube, check my Instagram and Facebook. And anybody that's saying they're having problems or having issues, please let them know what you did to get in. Please do that, right? Because we're missing like 35 people. All right. I know some of those people said they weren't going to be able to make it in time, that they'll jump in when they can, and or they'll go watch the replay. Again, everybody here will get access to a replay link. And also that PDF document will be sent to you as well. All right. After the session is over. All right. Again, it has to be the same email that was used to purchase the ticket. Thank you, Lynette. All right, so I'm going to give you another couple of minutes, and we're going to get it cracking. And if they can't get in, then I'm just going to have to give them the access link. But, yeah, I had some issues, man. This is crazy. All right, y'all. I'm going to give you all a second and put the intro back on, and then we're going to get started. Okay, the link should be working now. I removed the access restriction. So the link should be working now. So please click and confirm that for me. Please link and confirm that for me. Okay, some people are saying that the audio is bad. All right, let me get in front real quick and just confirm for me if the audio is okay. All right, just confirm if the audio is okay. All right, make sure I can see what y'all saying. Okay, we're about to get started on the PowerPoint. All right, so let me go ahead and do this. And let's do present. Present. All right, let me know if y'all can hear me clearly. Is it clearly? Can you hear me? Can you see me? If one of you can hear me, see me, and it's clear here too, if there's some issues. Hit 1 if you can hear me, see me clear. Hit 2 if there's some issues. All right, because the mic that I'm using for this is the mic that's built into the webcam. So let me know if you can hear me clearly, because I'm gonna project my voice this way, and I'm gonna look at you this way while I speak as I go through this presentation. All right, just let me know so I'll make sure there's no issues. All right. Okay. All right. Hold on. Let me get a better mic. Hold on 1 second. Let me see what's going on. Hold on 1 second. I think I know what the issue is. Let's see. Let's see. Oh, that's why. Okay. All right. Let me know if you can hear me better. Can you hear me better? Let me know if you can hear me better. Let me know if you can hear me better. Actually, I think I know what's going on. Hold on. 1 second. 1 second. I think I know what's up. I think I know why y'all can't hear me clearly. And you can only hear me when I'm in front of the camera. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. I think I know what the problem is. Let's not waste no more time. Okay, I see what the problem is. All right, if this is better, let me know. Hit 1 if this is better. Hit 1 if this is better. Hit 2 if it's not. 1 if it's better. 2 if it's not. Let me know. Please let me know. All right, I'm gonna get started as soon as possible because it's almost 5:30. Trying to get people in, trying to get people the PDF, and trying to get the audio straightened out before we go live. All right, before I start recording and we get it cracking. So let me know if this is better. If this is better. Let me know. I'm projecting my voice. I'm gonna be presenting. Let me know if this works for you, okay? Hit 1 if it is, hit 2 if it's not. Way better, okay. All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. I put it in presenter mode. It was my laptop, all right? It was my laptop because this webcam has no audio. All right, y'all. So I'm not going to be able to see what y'all saying. I was trying to find a way to do that. But I am going to project my voice like a man, like the Most High told Job. Stand up like a man, speak like a man. So we're gonna speak like a man. All right. All right. Let's see. Let me see if I can. Yeah, and also hit 1. Let me know if y'all can get access to the PDF. Hit 1. Let me know if you can get access to the PDF. All right. Let me know. Let me know. Let me know. 0050. Let me see if I can follow along on here. All right. Hit 1 if you can get access to the PDF. Hit 1 if you can get access to the PDF. This. All right, so I can see it. All right. Okay. I think I can see everything. Everything looks good. I'll put this a little bit more over to me. Okay. All right, so you're asking where the PDF is at. Let me show you one more time. I know some of you just came in. I'm able to actually see the comments and stuff now. So that's good beans. It's Good beans. Good beans. Okay. So, let me make sure you got the PDF. Matter of fact, let me drop the link in here. I'm tripping. Let me just drop the link in here. Say Moray. That's all you got to do, Moray. Let's drop the link in here. All right. There's the link right there. All right. The link is right there. Click the link and get the PDF. All right. It's on YouTube. It's on YouTube. All right. So yes, again, like I said, please stalk me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and just make sure that if anybody asks questions about how to get in or whatever the case may be, tell them how you got in, and that should help everybody. All right. Okay. I think my logo's in the way of my face. Let me move that out the way real quick. I know some of y'all like to see my handsome face, so let's go ahead and do that. I don't want no logo. Take this off. Take this off. There we go. All right. Cool. Let me move on up to the east side. Finally got a piece of the pie. Of course, there's going to be some people who feel a certain kind of way because this lecture costs. But that's to keep the trolls out, because the trolls ain't going to pay to come and watch. All right? Even though they're my most diehard fans, they're definitely not going to do that. All right? All right, so the audio's good. Hit one if the audio's good. You got the PDF, and you're helping everybody out on my social media platforms to get locked in. Because you're about to get it cracking. It's almost 5:30. One more minute. I'm going to go in. Like I said, if I can't get through everything today, there will be a follow-up part 2, which is free. Nobody has to pay for it, so you can get the rest of the lecture. And when I say nobody has to pay for it, I'm talking about only those who have already paid their tickets. You'll get a link to watch part 2 if I can't get through all of this. So I got an hour and a half to get it done. Hit one. I can see you from over here in the comments. Hit one. Let me know if you're ready to go. Julie says no PDF. Okay, more people's coming in. All right, good. I think everybody is finding out how to get in. There's the link for the PDF. Mother Leslie, you said Asanswa can't get in. Okay, well, everybody is saying that you have to log out of Eventbrite and log back into Eventbrite. Number one, make sure you have an Eventbrite account. So if she doesn't have one, make sure she creates one, part 2. Then log into Eventbrite, and then also make sure she checks the email that she registered and got the ticket with, because that's the email that's going to give you the link to get into here. All right. So those are the things that I want you guys to share. To whoever cannot get in, please help everybody else out. She did that. All right. You know what? Hold on one second. I'm gonna help her out. Hold on one second. Let me do this. Hold on one second. Let me see. Do this, and hopefully this helps. All right. So I do want her to get in. So I'm gonna go to Facebook. But I'm just gonna give you the direct link. All right. Come on, let's go. We ain't got a lot of time. All right, let her know, Mother Leslie, that I'm going to send her a message on Facebook. Let her know, tell her to check her Facebook messages. All right, and if anybody else you know who purchased the ticket, anybody in there knows who purchased the ticket and they're having difficulty, please let me know. All right, please let me know. All right. And I'll go ahead and help them out. All right. So I think we're good. She's in, she has it, it's working. All right, cool. All right. Yeah, maybe you have to register to StreamYard as well. I'm not sure, but try it out. If anybody missed it, like I said, I'm gonna send the replay link to everybody so you can get started. And then on the actual video that you'll get the video, because I had to cut this video up and send it to y'all. There's going to be an official recording that will only be on Patreon. But I'm definitely going to give access to everybody who was here to this. All right. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm gonna start my camera, and we're gonna go. All right. Let me adjust my camera real quick. I don't want my camera to overheat. All right. Well, this one. Let's see what happens. All right. So my camera. Let's see the camera. Camera should get me. Let's do this. All right. Okay. All right. I think that's good. All right. Let's see. Camera. Nope, that doesn't look good. Let me do it like this. I think that should be good. Okay. All right. I think this is good. All right, so we're going to get started. Without further delay, let's go ahead and get this lecture started. All right. I know some of y'all came in here because you want to see what it is that I'm going to be talking about. I already know. Let's see. Okay, perfect. All right. Let's hit record. All right. Some of y'all in here because you want to see me fall flat on my face because you're saying there's no way he can prove this. There's no way he can prove that. Y'all should already know how we get down. We don't play no games. All right. I knew exactly what I was doing when I did this presentation, and I knew that it would captivate a lot of people to want to see what this lecture is about. All right. So let's go ahead and get started, man. You already see the cover slide. I did a reveal on it as well. You see Shechem right there kissing Dinah. So y'all tell me, does it look like Dinah is a willing participant in that act? Does it look like she's a willing participant in that act? Hit one if it looks like it. Hit two if it looked like she's struggling, she's trying to get away. Y'all let me know. So I want to start this lecture off with the good old scripture down at the bottom, Genesis chapter 34, verse 2. And it says, when Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the ruler of that area, saw her, he took her and raped her. NIV translation. Now, that NIV translation has been theologically influenced by the traditions of Judeo-Christianity, and therefore it is a theological bias that the translator comes into the text with. And that is what we're going to address on today. This right here. All right? Get my little, here we go. All right? This right here. All right? So let's move on. Let's see what's going on. All right? Let's move on. First things first, we got to get these definitions in order. English definition, and again, we're not using the document yet. After we get through this part, I'll let you know when we're going to get to the document, okay? English definitions, right? The Merriam-Webster Dictionary, rape, unlawful activity and usually sexual intercourse carried out forcibly or under threat of injury against a person's will or with a person who is beneath a certain age or incapable of valid consent because of mental illness mental deficiency, intoxication, unconsciousness, or deception. And let me get to the second definition, right? This is from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Second definition is from the Cambridge Dictionary, right? Rape, to force someone to have sex when they are unwilling, using violence or threatening behavior. Interesting. So I want to say this. I want to take a sidebar and say this. I sympathize and empathize, right? But I'm limited in that, with all the women who had to experience this act. Any man that commits this act on a woman is not a man. That's not what I'm going to call them. They're not a man. Justice should be done for that act. And I pray that if you did not press criminal charges, that the Most High will render justice unto you, because in his word he says that that's what he requires Israel to do, carry justice, and he's a power, or the patron deity of justice. So I know that English translation, when women see it, especially women who have experienced that act, that illicit, disgusting act, all right, that humiliating act, when they see the English translation and they're influenced by religio, Judeo-Christianity, that automatically their brain tunes in and they focus and they say, look, this is rape. You can't tell me nothing else that this is rape, because it's emotive. That word, that buzzword is emotive. It's drawing out an emotion based on a prior experience. And what I have to say to all the women out there that are watching, my sisters, please, you have to compartmentalize that experience that you experienced. Get some help, get some counseling, get some therapy if it's still hurting you, if it's still keeping you chained and locked down. Y'all can break you from that, right? But it takes time. And I will never tell nobody, just get over it. What I'm saying is heal, right? But I would like you to compartmentalize that and separate it from the narrative that we're about to go into, because you cannot read that experience into the narrative. And that's another thing that we do when we eisegete the text. We read our experiences into the narrative. The narrative was not written with our personal experiences at hand. It didn't even know that we would exist. So you got to separate the two. And this is very, very important, right? So I'm going to say this, right? Once we move on past the English definitions, we got to deal with the dogma. The dogma. That's what it's all about. The dogma. The dogma is any statement from a religious body or community that is to be held as incontrovertibly true, without opposition. It is to be assumed, accepted, and it is supposed to be a part of how you think, how you act, how you behave in accordance with that religious disposition put forth by the religious entities responsible for putting out these doctrines that you subscribe to. That's the dogma. But I'm going to show you where a lot of that dogma comes from in regards to Shechem and Dinah. That's very important. I'm going to show this to you, right? So let's go through some of the Jewish side of things. And I got a very interesting person by the name of Tamar Kadari. She's responsible for writing this article, right? I didn't really put aside a lot of information in regards to her. I have a small snippet in regards to her credentials, who she is. I'm going to read it to you after I read her article, because she goes into detail about where this particular position comes from in regards to Judaism, right? All right, let's go ahead and dive into this, right? So it says, the episode of Dinah and Shechem, son of Hamor. The rabbis note that Shechem was a city predestined for evil happenings. Dinah was abused there. It was the place of Joseph's sale, and the kingdom of the Davidic line was divided in this city. The story of Dinah is one of the most difficult biblical narratives, and the rabbis offer different explanations for how Jacob's daughter became involved in this episode. All right? So the first thing is a punishment for Jacob. All right? Let's go into this. In an attempt to come to terms with the rape of Dinah, the rabbi suggests that this was a punishment for her father. What was his sin? According to one tradition, he was punished for what he said upon building the altar in Salem upon his return from Padan Aram. Genesis 33:20 tells that he set up an altar there and called it El, God of Israel. The Midrash reads this as he called himself El. Interesting. Jacob said, "You are God in the heavens, and I am God on earth." Since he usurped authority for himself, he was punished by the rape of his daughter. Another tradition has Jacob punished for what he said to Laban when they divided the flock between themselves. In the future, when you go over my wages, let my honesty towards you testify for me. He boasted that his honesty would later come to light, which was not at all certain. Instead, Jacob should have acted as Proverbs 27:1 counsels, "Do not boast of tomorrow, for you do not know what the day will bring." He accordingly was punished tomorrow, that is, in the future. Instead of "let my honesty towards you testify," ve anta, for me, his daughter was abused, va ya'aneha, and his honesty was not acknowledged. And the sources for that I have on here, and I'm going to share that with y'all. Y'all get a copy of this as well, right? So you can go over it as well, right? So this is actually what's going on. Matter of fact, let me see if I can do something for y'all real quick. Actually, let me just keep going. I'm just going to keep going, all right? All right. So now, next, this is again about Jacob. A third tradition suggests that Jacob's tardiness in honoring his vow was the cause of his punishment. When he was in Bethel during his flight from Laban, he vowed that if God favored him, he would return to Bethel and there erect an altar to the Lord. Genesis chapter 20, verses 20 to 22. I think we did. Jacob, however, procrastinated in fulfilling his pledge. First, he lived in Laban's house for 20 years, and even after returning to Canaan, he first dwelled in Shechem. He therefore was punished by experiencing all three of the cardinal sins of idolatry, forbidden sexual relations, and bloodshed. Forbidden sexual relations by Shechem's rape of Dinah, bloodshed, the ensuing slaughter of the inhabitants of Shechem by Simeon and Levi, and idolatry. Following the massacre, Jacob commands all the members of his household to rid themselves of foreign gods. This is from Rabbah 37:1. The previous one that I quoted was from Rabbah 73:9. The one prior to that is from Rabbah 79:8. Those are your sources. This is what we got that's going on. Let me see where we at. Where we at? Okay, let's go to the next. Let's go to the next slide. Right? This is where I have it right here. We have one more tradition. It's that last paragraph, right, that we see up here. It says, yet another tradition claims that Jacob was penalized for preventing Dinah from marrying his brother Esau. Before his encounter with the latter, Jacob sent his family across the Jabbok River, and we are told in Genesis 32:22, the same night he arose and took his 2 wives, his 2 maidens, and his 11 children. The Midrash asks, where was Dinah? And answers that he had locked her in a chest, saying, so that Esau should not see her and take her from me. God told him, you withheld Dinah from your brother, and due to her good attributes, she could have reformed him. Since you did not want to give her to Esau, who was circumcised, you are punished through her being taken by one who was uncircumcised, Shechem, son of Hamor. You did not give her in legitimate matrimony, therefore you are punished by her being taken by Shechem illegitimately. That's from Rabbah 6:76-9. This is fascinating. This is really fascinating. Where is that information? Where's that textual data at in Scripture? Because I didn't see it. Maybe y'all saw it. I don't know, because I definitely didn't see it. All right? Let's go to number 2. As punishment for Leah. Okay? The rabbis alternatively explain the rape of Dinah as retribution for Leah's improper behavior regarding the mandrakes. In the biblical account, Reuben found mandrakes, an aphrodisiac, in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel, who was barren, asked Leah to sell them to her and return for foregoing her right to be with Jacob that night. Genesis chapter 30, verse 16 tells that upon Jacob's return from the field, Leah came out to greet him and called him to come to her tent. According to the rabbis, Leah was beckoned as a harlot when she went to meet her husband. For acting in such an immodest manner, she was punished by her daughter behaving in the same fashion when she went out to visit the daughters of the land. Rabbah 80:1. Another midrashic explanation of Leah's sin with the mandrakes is that she was ungrateful to Rachel. God asked her, is this the reward for a good deed? Is this the reward of your sister Rachel, who gave you her signs with her husband, that Jacob and Rachel had agreed upon, so that Laban would not be able to deceive Jacob? To spare your embarrassment on your wedding night, as a punishment for this behavior, God caused Leah even greater embarrassment with the episode of Dinah. That's from Rabati Vayishla, page 168. Fascinating. This is interesting. Somebody's just making novels and stuff like that. I mean, it is what it is, right? But let's keep going. Shechem's guilt, number 3. The rabbis compare Shechem to a snake that bites a person within his own home. They relate that Dinah would stay within her tent and not go about, as was fitting for a daughter of Jacob. But Shechem enticed her to come out by bringing young women drummers who played outside her tent. When Dinah emerged from her tent to see the daughters of the land playing, he kidnapped her. Okay. Number 4, Dinah's responsibility. Okay, let's see what this is about. In contrast to those approaches, another conception stresses Dinah's responsibility for her conduct and the consequences of her actions. The proponents of this view argue that her father and brothers would sit in the academy and study, while she preferred to go out and see the daughters of the land. I don't know how academy was established at that time, but it is what it is. Avot de Rabbi Nathan, version B, chapter 3. Dinah desired to be seen, not just to see others. She wanted the land's young men to see her beauty, and Shechem did indeed see her and desire her. The rabbis compared this to a person who goes into the marketplace holding a piece of meat in his hand with the dog following him. Eventually, the dog will succeed in grabbing the meat from his hand. According to this analogy, Shechem's general behavior was completely unbridled, totally lacking any self-control. Dinah should have been careful and not shown him her beauty. This is from Tahuma by Yishla 19. Some rabbis claim that Dinah is representative of the weakness from which all women suffer. God took the care to create women from a rib, which is a concealed, modest place. Notwithstanding this, women like to go out to public places. Rabbah 18:2. The instance of Dinah casts light on the danger at hand when any woman goes out to the marketplace. Rabbah 8:12. These dicta reveal the anxiety of the rabbis at the thought of their wives and daughters leaving the protected home for the marketplace and the streets of the city. All right? Interesting. Next up. Oh no, I read this already. Let's move forward. All right? This is the second part of Dinah's responsibility. When Simeon and Levi came to the city and killed Shechem and Hamor, they extricated Dinah from Shechem's home. Since they risked their lives for her, the Torah, Genesis 34:25, calls them specifically Simeon and Levi, brothers of Dinah. Mekilta de Rabbi Ishmael, Masekta de Shira Beshala 10. The rabbis relate that the brothers were forced to drag Dinah out because she was too ashamed to leave Shechem's house. Finally, Simeon vowed to her that he would marry her. They wed, and a son was born from this union. Saul, the son of a Canaanite woman, Genesis chapter 46:10. Dinah was the Canaanite woman because her behavior was like that of the Canaanites. According to another explanation of this appellation, when she died, Simeon buried her in Canaan. Rabbah 80:11. A different midrash relates that Dinah was married to Job, basing this on Job's telling his wife, "You talk as a shameless woman, ha nevalot, might talk." Job 2:10. And on the episode of Dinah in Genesis 34:7, because he had committed an outrage, Nebalah, in Israel. That's from Rabbah 19:12. Dinah converted Job, and therefore Jacob had erred when he opposed her being married to his brother Esau, a union which would have led to the latter's reformation, from Tanhuma by Yishla 19. According to another midrashic account, Dinah was impregnated by Shechem and gave birth to Asenath. Jacob's sons wanted to kill the baby so it would not be said that there was harlotry in Jacob's tent. Jacob bought a gold plate and wrote on it the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he. According to another tradition, he recorded on it the episode with Shechem. Jacob hung the plate around Asenath's neck and sent her away. God dispatched the angel Michael to bring her to the house of Potiphar in Egypt. According to another exegetical tradition, Dinah cast Asenath on the wall of Egypt, i.e. the wall surrounding the palace. That day, Potiphar went out for a walk with his servants next to the wall and heard the infants crying. When they brought the baby to him, he saw that the plate and the record of the episode. Potiphar told his servants, "The girl is the daughter of the great ones." He brought her to his home and gave her a wet nurse. Potiphar's wife was barren, and she raised Asenath as her own daughter. Consequently, she was called Asenath, daughter of Potiphar, for she was raised in the home of Potiphar and his wife, and if she were their own daughter, as if she was her own daughter, That's from Pirkei de Rabbi in Eliezer, chapter 37, Midrash Agadah, Genesis 41:45. These different midrashic accounts of Dinah's marriage teach that Dinah overcame the episode of her rape by Shechem, rehabilitated herself, and was married. According to some of these traditions, either she herself or her daughter married some family member from Jacob's clan. Her descendants included renowned individuals, right? Now, this was an article called Dinah, Midrash, and Agadah, and it was an article written by Tamar Kadari, all right? Tamar Kadari is a senior lecturer in Midrash and Agadah and the former dean of the Schechter Institute of Jewish Studies in Jerusalem. She teaches at the Schechter Institute and Bar Ilan University. Her synoptic edition of Midrash Songs of Songs, Rabbah, based on extensive manuscript research, was launched in 2014 on the Schechter website. She is the author of Minka Le Yehuda, Julius Theodore, and redaction of the Agadic Midrashim of the land of Israel. All right. So she has published numerous articles. She was at the University of Jerusalem, the Bar Ilan University, etc. So we're dealing with an actual scholar in the field who is pretty much summarizing for us all that Agadah that we'd have to go into. But I digress. So from that perspective, right, from the midrash of the rabbis, that is where we get that part of the Judeo-Christian portion from. But I'm going to go ahead and say that these things create religio. And we're going to get into what religio is in a second. But then some of y'all say, but in the book of Jubilees and Jasher, it actually talks about this episode, right? So this is what I'm going to do. Y'all should have the PDF, so you have the scriptures right in front of you. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm just going to read the portions in relationship to what we're discussing on today. So in the book of Jubilees and Jasher, Jubilees chapter 30, verse 2, and there they carried off Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, into the house of Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, and he lay with her and defiled her, and she was a little girl, a child of 12 years. That's where y'all get that. Oh, Devon, she was only 12 years old. You're getting it from Jubilees, right? Okay. Jasher 33 and 11. And he sent and had her taken by force. And Dinah came to the house of Shechem, and he seized her forcibly and lay with her and humbled her, and he loved her exceedingly and placed her in his house. That's Jasher 33 and 11. This is where a lot of y'all being influenced by the dogma. This is something special, and I'm going to explain to you. Remember the stuff we read from the rabbis, the Agadah from the rabbis, and their midrash within Judaism on how they created these novel accounts of what happened to Dinah? That's very fascinating, right? I'm going to show you something. Let's go into this. Let's learn a little bit about Jubilees and Jasher, all right? Just a little bit, right? There's a book called Enoch and Jubilees. Well, it should have Jasher. That's the wrong image, but you'll see on the PDF, the last page of the bibliography, and that one is the proper book. So this is not correct, but I'll correct it after this is over, right? So when this PowerPoint is available, that y'all can go through it yourselves, okay? So let's read this. Jubilees. The book of Jubilees was originally written in Hebrew. The author was a Pharisee, a doctor of the law, or someone very familiar with scripture and religious law. Since the scrolls were found in what is assumed to be an Essene library and were dated to the time of the Essene community was active, the author was probably a member of that particular religious group. Jubilees represents a hyper-legalistic and midrashic tendency, which was part of the Essene culture at the time. Midrash refers to writings containing extra legal material of anecdotal or allegorical nature designed either to clarify historical material or to teach a moral point. Jubilees represents a midrash on Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 through Exodus 12 and 50, which depicts the episodes from creation with the observance of the Sabbath day by the angels and men to Israel's escape from Egyptian bondage. This is on the introduction page of this book. The book is called Enoch, Jubilees, Jasher, banned from the Bible. So what we're seeing here is that even though the Book of Jubilees was found amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls in a Qumran caves in that community by a Essene sect, it is nothing but midrash. Now, I don't have time to go into the text and analyze it and show you how we know it's midrash, but the same midrash that you get from those sects in Qumran is very similar to what you saw in Judaism by the rabbis. It's just their form of rabbinic midrash. It is not scripture, and it was not canonical like Enoch was amongst the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, that's very important. So before you go back and quote Jubilees, understand what you're reading. I know some of your hopes got crushed right there, but it's all good. Let's keep going. Jasher. There are several books which have come to us entitled the Book of Jasher. I talked about this before. One is an ethical treatise from the Middle Ages. It begins with a section of the mystery of the creation of the world. It is clearly unrelated to the biblical Book of Jasher. Another was published in 1829, supposedly translated by Flaccus Albinus Alcunis. It opens with the chapter 1, verse 1, reading, "While it was the beginning, darkness overspread the face of nature. It is now considered a fake." The third and most important is by Midrash, first translated into English in 1840. Do you understand where you're even getting this from? It opens with chapter 1, verse 1, reading, "And God said, let us make man in our image after our likeness, and God created man in his own image." Enoch, Jubilees, Jasher, banned from the Bible page introduction. It's Midrash. It's Midrash. Y'all are quoting Midrash as if it's scripture. And make sure you got the right book of Jasher, because one of them is a forgery, is a fraud, is a fake. The other one is unrelated. And then you have the one I think most of y'all have, which is the one that you read that's Midrash. Midrash is not canonical scripture. So don't quote that stuff to me anymore. Because if you're going to quote this for me, you might as well quote all the stories that we read from the rabbinic traditions of Agadah. That's their Midrash. That's all you're doing. Midrash Agadah. Let's move on. You're getting warmed up. Now, this is how you really get into the scriptures, right? And again, I'm going to shout out our upcoming classes, because in our upcoming classes, we're going to teach you this. Whenever we attack some form of scripture, this is the methodology we're going to address it with. And I'm going to show you through this lecture how we are addressing that. All right, I got about an hour left. Let me see how much I can get done. All right. So religio. Why using this term religio, Judeo-Christianity, divine? Religio's definition is scrupulous or strict observance of the traditional cultus. What I'm saying to you is that dogma that's formed, and I define dogma, is created by traditional cults. And there's a scrupulous and strict observance of the dogma within these traditional cults. So if you're coming from the Judeo-Christian perspective, you're going from the traditional Judeo-Christian perspective, you are part of a traditional cultist. This is a Latin word, Roman, Latin word. That is what you're involved in, religio. And we know that that is also part of the word religious. So y'all are being bounded within the traditional cultists, and you accepting Dinah being raped by Shechem as part of the scrupulous and strict observance of that traditional cult that you're part of. So in order to get away from that, we are going to use several approaches to this subject matter. And the number one is the preponderance of the evidence. I'm going to tell you what the preponderance of the evidence is, and some people may not know what that means. So let's get into the preponderance of the evidence. The preponderance of the evidence is one type of evidentiary standard used in a burden of proof analysis. Under the preponderance standard, the burden of proof is met when the party with the burden convinces the fact finder that there is a greater than 50% chance that the claim is true. So now the burden is on me, because the traditional cultist, the one that issues the dogma that you have a strict observance to, is teaching via the translation of your English Bibles, via the books of Jasher and Jubilees, or Jubilees and Jasher, and Midrash Agadah from Judaism, that Dinah was raped. So now I have to show you with the preponderance of the evidence that that is not the case. And I'm going to show this to you with all the resources that I'm going to share. Now, what are these 5 steps? The first one, I've mentioned it already, the preponderance of the evidence. The second one is comparative cultural analysis. I'm going to look at the culture in ancient Israel and compare it to other ancient Near Eastern cultures, because we have to extract the legal codes, because this is the lens in which these narratives are seen. When you read scripture, the Torah was written in retrospect. I'm going to say it again. The form of the Torah we have today was written in retrospect, and it was written by a priest scribe. So you'll have a lot of priestly language encoded in Torah. And from my position, right, the form that we got, it started with in the royal house of David. When the royal house of Israel was established, it could be David, it could be David, it could be Hezekiah, it could be Josiah, whoever it was. Their royal court had priest scribes, and those priest scribes took whatever form of the text they had. And you saw they was discovering a book, and they went and they redacted it to what we have today. There's a lot of changes that went away, but they were the parent of this information. That's very important. So when you go back and you read these narratives, you have to have legal codes in your mind as corrective lenses in order to see these agadah, these narratives. That's important. Okay. So that's the second. The second method is the comparative cultural analysis. The third method is the lexical analysis. So we're going to go into the words that's being used. Now, I don't have time to go in depth into a Hebrew grammar. I would say Hebrew grammar decoding or unveiling, because that would take a lot more time. So we're just going to stick with the lexical analysis, not a full linguistic analysis, just touching on a lexical analysis so we can go and find these words, the root form of these words, in an appropriate lexicon and find out how it's defined. That's very important. The fourth point is intertextual analysis. We're going to take various scriptures within the Tanakh, and we're going to compare them with each other in order to deduce the common denominator and extract the principle to then go back to the narrative and apply it and see how it plays out. That's important. Lastly, we're going to deal with the contextual analysis. That means we're going to read the context and understand in the narrative who's who, where they at, what's going on, how it's being done, where it's at, what it is, etc. That is very important, because if you just read the context, it answers itself. But some of y'all may need more than that because you're still stuck in the religio state of mind. We're going to break you out of that today. All right? Okay. All right. It's getting hot in here, but don't take off your clothes. Okay? Keep your clothes on. Stay modest while we're watching this. Some of y'all probably renting your shirts right now. Like, oh, he's talking about Midrash Agadah. Oh, he's talking about Jubilees. Oh, I love that book. Oh, it's about Joshua. Renting their shirts, putting sackcloth on, and sprinkling ashes on their head and sitting down and weep like this. That's what some of y'all doing right now, because we just busted up your dog. Scene 1, Genesis. If you go to your PDF, you'll see that the first section deals with the book of Genesis. So we're going to go into the book of Genesis, and we're going to follow along to see what is going on, right? So I'm going to pause real quick. Just give me a second. I think to take a quick water break. Now, on the official video, the section where you see the TV, I'm going to actually have the PowerPoint slide there. So if you're not subscribed to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/divineprospect, somebody please drop it in the chat there. You're not going to be able to see the edited version of this video. That's going to have the full slides there. And then you'll get everything else with it. So please subscribe to our Patreon. Select the $20 tier, because that's where this will be at with the PowerPoint. And use the PowerPoint, that's in the video on there, the edited version, and use the document that I gave you and follow along. I'm trying to give you experience. I'm going to try to up the ante every time we do lectures so you can get the full experience, all right? I'm going to do sounds in the next one, right? Immersive sound. And I'm going to use Bible audio. You're going to love the next one, all right? So stay tuned for that, all right? All right, second one, Genesis. Let's go into the book of Genesis and see where we at. Book of Genesis. Thank you, Michael Hall, for posting that. All right, book of Genesis. Okay, let me make my view a little bit bigger here. Give me 1 second. Light's messing up my eyes a little bit, but it's okay. I think y'all can see. I think y'all can see fine. Okay. All right. So let me adjust this light. This thing is super bright. Okay. Right. Okay. So going into the book of Genesis. All right. And I want you to consult the documents that I provided you. All right. Let me get back there 1 second. Woo! It's getting hot in here. It's getting hot. So, the Bible translations that I've used for the scriptures that you're reading, I didn't get to notate that on every scripture, but it's a combination of the ESV, NET, and JPS. All right? ESV, NET, and JPS. Okay? Now let's go to Genesis chapter 10, verse 6. All right? The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. Canaan was the father of Sidon, his firstborn, Heth, the Jebusites, the Amorites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, the Sinites, the Arvadites, Zemarites, and Hamathites. Eventually, the families of the Canaanites were scattered. So what we have here is that the Hivites is from Canaan. We know Canaan, within the narrative of Genesis chapter 9, Canaan received a curse from Noah. Noah could not curse Ham, but he cursed his firstborn. The reason why he could not curse Ham, because Ham was already Baruch by Yah, so he cannot curse him. He cursed Canaan. Now, I did a whole nother video years ago on explaining all of that, but that's important to note that this is from a cursed seed, not Ham. Ham had other children, right? We're not talking about Cush. We're not talking about Mizraim. We're not talking about Put. We're only talking about Canaan. Canaan, the firstborn. He was the one that was addressed. The rest of them is not. So when you hear somebody give you the Hamitic hypothesis, it's not referring to Cush, Mizraim, and Put. It's only referring to Canaan. That's very important. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I just want you to know that the peoples of the land in Genesis 10 were all divided according to their tribes and their tongues and their nations. That's so important. So the Canaanites were separated and divided from the Shemites and the seed of Shem. Going to Genesis chapter 10 to read the rest of that, all right? Genesis chapter 17, verse 4, and this is important. Any uncircumcised male who was not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin shall be cut off from his people. He has broken my covenant. Circumcision is extremely important from all the seed of Abraham. I want you to notice that a lot of the Shemites were also circumcised. So circumcision was a command that Abraham was given for him to do to himself, his lineage, and all those in his household. Even the Gentiles amongst them had to be circumcised. Circumcision is very important. Genesis chapter 24, verse 1. Now Abraham was old, well advanced in years, and the Most High, or Yah, had blessed him in everything. Abraham put to his servant, the senior one in his household, who was in charge of everything he had, put your hand under my thigh, quote unquote. That requires another lecture to explain what that is. So that I may make you solemnly promise by Yod He Wav He, the God of heaven and the God of earth, you must not acquire a wife, this is important, for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites. Already, Abraham set a precedent that he wanted his lineage to be distinct and not intermarried and mingled with the Canaanites, who traditionally speaking were a cursed seed. That's important. Among whom I am living, you must go instead to my country and to my relatives to find a wife for my son Isaac. The servant told Isaac everything that had happened, verse 66. Then Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother's tent. He took her. Wayika, he took her from Lochath. It's important. As his wife and loved her. Waye ehabeha. That's from the qua root from ahead, which means love. So he took her and he loved her. What do you mean he took her? We're going to get into that in a second, right? Genesis chapter 24, verse 67. And again, this is from the Septuagint. Then Isaac entered into his mother's house and took. This is in the AR's active sense. The root is lambanu, right? Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was confident concerning his mother Sarah. This is from the NET version of the Septuagint. That's very important, right? So now, we're looking at this precedent. The Canaanites are cursed, and they're cursed in Genesis chapter 9. We see that they become a tribe of their own. They split and they're divided, and they're separate. Abraham and all his children and all his household are circumcised, even the Gentiles in his household. And then Abraham, before he dies, tells his servant to go get a daughter of his bloodline, his Semitic lineage, to give to his son Isaac, and not from the Canaanites. A distinction was made. That's very important. Okay? So we see an agreement in the Septuagint and an agreement in the Masoretic text as it pertains to this episode that we see here in Acts chapter 24, verse 7. So if Lachak means took and raped, then that means that Isaac raped Rebekah. We got to deal with this, man, because it also says he loved her. I wonder if that language is in Shechem and Dinah's account. Interesting, right? So let me go to this source real quick for you right here. Okay? This is from the Cultural Background Study Bible. I recommend everybody to buy this book. Buy this book. If you've been following me for some time, you already know this is, I'm sure this is already in your library, but for those who are new, who have not been following, get this book, all right? It says, in the ancient world, it was common to restrict or at least prefer marriage within the social group, a practice called endogamy. Endogamy is particularly significant in social contexts that emphasize inheritance. In this way, the lineage is isolated for purposes of social status and property ownership. In Israel, the concerns are ethnic because the land was promised to Abraham and his family, and he is avoiding assimilation with the people in the land. The prescription here is concerned about ethnic separation. This is from Cultural Background Study Bible, page 57, footnote 24:4. Do you understand? Does that provide a little bit more insight? Should. Okay? All right. Genesis chapter 28, verse 1. Move on to the next verse. And it says, so Isaac called for Jacob and blessed him. Then he commanded him, you must not marry a Canaanite woman. Leave immediately for Padan Aram. Go to the house of Bethuel, your mother's father, and find yourself a wife there among the daughters of Laban, your mother's brother. So Isaac sent Jacob on his way, and he went to Padan Aram, to Laban, son of Bethuel, the Aramean, and brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. So even Isaac had a standard and did not want his son to marry a Canaanite woman. Y'all getting it now? They was avoiding the Canaanite women because Canaan had a curse on him from Noah, and they would have known about this. It would have been passed down through Shem's line to Abraham, Isaac, and then now to Jacob. So there's no intermarriage. That is not part of their cultural mandates at this point. All right? I must have missed my next. Let me see. Okay. I had to add this. I'm reading another footnote from the same book, Cultural Background Study Bible. I'm going to add it to the PowerPoint, so don't even worry about it. Right? It's just not here, but let me read it. Just as Abraham insisted that Isaac marry someone from outside the land, This is Genesis 24, verses 2 to 4. Isaac expresses the same desire for Jacob. In addition to echoing the past generation, this served as a tacit condemnation of Esau's marriage. Genesis chapter 26, verses 34 to 35. Why was Isaac prohibited from leaving the land, yet Jacob was encouraged to do so? The difference lies in the fact that if Isaac left and Abraham subsequently died, no heir of the family would be left to safeguard the land by their presence. But when Jacob left, Isaac and Esau were still but when Jacob left, Isaac and Esau were still there to maintain the claim. Abraham and Sarah's graves were also there. The jeopardy that Isaac and Jacob face has to do with the survival of the family. Jacob is therefore sent from the land to save his life. Verse 5. That's from the Cultural Background Study Bible, pages 65 to 66, footnote 28-2. That's interesting. So now we see a precedent being established. No intermarrying with the Canaanites. Only circumcised males in the household of Abraham. All right? And by extension, his cousins and his family, his extended family over by Laban and them. That's very important. Okay? And that the Canaanites were cursed and separated, and they wanted to keep away from them because they wanted to keep their ethnic claims to the land. All of that is important. So now, as we move on, we're going to scene 2, which is Torah. Okay? So what does the mitzvah and Torah show us? And remember, the prescribed shaped the framework for the Genesis narrative. It was written in retrospect, like I said earlier, by a prescribed that comes much later. So he's writing these narratives through the lens of Torah, the legal code. That's important, okay? So Shemota, Exodus chapter 22:16 says, watch this, if a man seduces, yepate, if a man seduces, patath is the root word, and that's the same way we get the name Yefeth. Yefeth comes from patath, which means to enlarge, to open up. It simply means a virgin who is not engaged and goes to bed. That's important. Way shakav, goes to bed, and that is the root from shakav, which we're going to get into later. With her, he must surely pay the marriage price for her to be his wife. If her father refuses to give her to him, he must pay money for the bride price of virgin. So let me do this, right? While we're doing this, right? I'm going to go to the lexicon, right? And I'm going to go to this word, lachah, right? I'm going to wait towards the end. I don't want to get into that. But I will go to this word here that is translated as seduce. And remember, we're doing intertextual analysis. We're comparing one scripture with another scripture to deduce the common denominator and extract the principle in order to apply it to the Agadah, or the narrative of Genesis. This is important, okay? And now, just remember, when we read some details in regards to this, Deuteronomy and Exodus are saying the same thing. The difference is Exodus was written earlier, Deuteronomy is written later. That's very important to keep that in mind. So there's going to be some choice in language that may differ, but the principle still stands, especially when you compare them together. You'll see through deduction that it's the same common principle. Keep that in mind, right? Now, before I go into the details comparing the two, let's move on to the next ones, right? So the first one we know is that if a man seduces, runs game on a virgin, a betula, a woman who has not had a hymen broken, and she's not engaged to somebody or betrothed, which is aras, which we're going to get into later, and he lies with her, shachav, right? With her, he must pay the marriage price for her to be his wife. So I have another portion of this after the conclusion, and I go into what the marriage process or protocol should look like, right? So he's skipping that process. He's laying with her. Now again, the woman's not being raped. She's not being held against her will. She's not being raped. This is important. He's just seducing, running game on her, persuading her, and she consents and sleeps with him. So now he has to pay the father the bride price, whatever that's set for the virgin at that time or within that community. And if the father refuses, so the father can say, no, you cannot have my daughter. Even if the father refuses, he still has to pay that bride price. That is the penalty for his act. That's very important, all right? No rape here. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 7. And is there any man, and if there is, I think said, and if there is any man who has betrothed, the word eras is there, from the root word aras, a wife, and has not taken lechach, it's the key word, lechach, that's important, has not taken her, does that mean rape her? No. He's already engaged to her, and he has not taken her as his wife. You're going to find out what that means when we get into the narrative of Dinah and Hamor. I'll go into those words, right? Let him go back to his house, lest he die in the battle, and another man take her. The other man is not going to betroth her. He is just going to lie with her. Why? Because she already has a prior contractual agreement with the other man. Because if he dies, she'd be free from that. But the stigma is that she was betrothed to that man. Very similar to Bathsheba and David. Very interesting. But let's go to this word. I'm going to go back to Exodus 22:16. Let's go to this word seduce, this word patah. Right? Let's take a look at it. Let me go to the lexicon. You guys should be able to see it if you scroll down. You scroll down. Come on. Where is my lexicon? All right, let's go here. Go here and grab it. All right, so we're going to use the we're going to use the Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament, or the Halakh, and we're going to go to entry 1, 2, 3, 4. Entry 4 that says patah, and it says of the verb is denominated from that. We go into definition, and the PL stem, which you'll see I've marked there in the language portion, right, the lexical portion. The PL stem means to persuade, traditionally to entice and seduce a young woman, and you'll see Exodus 22:15 as the entry for that. All right, seduce, persuade, not forcibly take and rape. Okay. And y'all can look up lachach as well. If you want to scroll there and take a look at it, it's fine. But I'm gonna go through the rest of this, all right? Oh, let's go to the word aras for betroth. Let me go there too. I think I have it in there. Let me see. Let's see. All right, so let's go to this word aras. And I have aras there. It's going to be under. It's going to be under the. Is it the theological dictionary? Let's see. Where's aras? You'll see aras under. Can't find it here right now, which is strange, but you'll see it in lexicon version. Let me just go back to the lecture, and y'all can follow along and take a look at it as well. Okay. All right. So come on. What's going on? What is going on? Hold on 1 second. I don't know what just happened. I don't know what just. 1 second. All right. If you're liking this, hit 1. Let me know that you're liking it. Hit 1 if you're enjoying this, right? It's a lot of information. Go back to the document. All right. I don't know. Microsoft Word is tripping on me right now. Let me go back. Actually, let me do this. Let me do this to make it easy. Okay? All right, here we go. This is much better. All right, so let's go back to it was in Genesis, right? Genesis, past Genesis, it was in Torah, right? So let's go back. Here it is, right? Deuteronomy 20, chapter 20, verse 7. Again, you can go back and look the word aras. It's in there somewhere. I just can't find it right now, but it's there. You'll see it. And you'll know what some of that process is. It explains in the lexicon what some of that process is, okay? Now, Devarim of Deuteronomy 28, 22, and verse 28. Suppose a man come across a virgin, Bethila, who is not engaged. Excuse me, let me see. Yeah, who is not engaged and takes hold. The word there is utefasa, tafas, and takes hold of her and lies with her, shakav, and lies with her, and they are discovered. Now, here's the thing, right? Some people will look at that, Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 28, and say, oh, he took hold of her. He forcibly grabbed her and he raped her. Well, there's a principle in Torah that if a woman has been violated, she must cry out. That is an obligation of her to cry out so that justice can be done to the attacker. And we're going to see that as we go forward. But in this case, he took hold of her. Well, this is in the cow stem. And if you go back into the lexicon, where you'll see more of the information, you'll get a little bit more details in regards to what do you mean he took hold of her. He didn't rape her. If he raped her, it'd be in the PL stem. They forcibly did it. But he took hold, he captivated her, he persuaded her, he ran game on her, right? And he locked her in, and he lied with her, he slept with her, there was no betrothal, none of that marriage protocol is done, but they are discovered. Now, Weinim is very important, right? So, Weinim Sa'u, that U suffix is a third person, common plural. It's referring to both parties, because she did not cry out when he took hold of her. This is a text that goes with Exodus 22 and 16, and you'll see this all the time. It's compared to each other. So we got to look at both accounts, deduce, and get the principle. There's no rape here, right? But I digress. Let's go further, right? I want to read something for y'all real quick, right? This is from a book called Inventing God's Law, How the Covenant Code of the Bible Used and Revised the Laws of Hammurabi by David P. Wright. Here's the section right here called Seducing an Unbetrothed Virgin. Again, we're doing comparative cultural analysis right now. We just did some intertextual analysis. Now we're doing this cross-cultural analysis or comparative cultural analysis, right? This law does not have a counterpart in LH, but it looks very familiar to MAL. That's the Assyrian law. MAL 855 speaks of a young woman who is not betrothed. CC speaks of a young woman who is not betrothed. MAL 855 goes on to talk about a case of rape where the culprit must pay threefold the bride price for the woman. The law adds, now this is in Assyrian law, if her father is not willing, he shall nonetheless receive the threefold amount of silver for the maiden and give his daughter to whoever he desires. It seems similar, but there's some cultural nuances that separate, right? The Assyrian law 856, which speaks of a case where the maiden gives herself willingly, requires that the one who had intercourse with her pay the threefold amount of silver that is the price of the maiden. The father shall do with his daughter as he desires. The outcome of CC's law is similar. Speaking only of a case of seduction, it says that the man shall acquire her as a wife by paying the bride price. If her father refuses to give him to her, he shall still weigh out silver as the bride price of maidens. This law is ultimately related to the context of the main laws in CC that correlate with Hammurabi's topical sequence. It explains why the daughter of a debtor must marry her father's creditor in 21:7-11. See chapter 5. And this is from Inventing God's Law, How the Covenant Code of the Bible Used and Revised the Laws of Hammurabi, page 48. So what we're seeing in other cultures historically, very similar laws. Interesting. That lines up with some of the stuff. Not this in particular, but it looks like it's very similar to what we read in Devarim 22. But again, the word take hold there is related to Exodus chapter 22. And remember, the purpose of this book is showing you how these laws already existed in the ancient Near East. They just became codified as a theocratic system within the Israelite train of thought. So the Israelites may have seen or experienced these other acts taking place, these legal codes, and they revised one for their culture. interesting. Just trying to give you, some outside sources so you can see what's also going on comparatively with other cultures, right? All right. Let me go here. Do we have more of that? I think that's everything right there. All right. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 10. You'll see that in your sheet. When you go out to war against your enemies, and Yah, your power, gives them into your hand, and you take them captive. Some people say, oh, go into that, divine. Okay. And you see among the captives a beautiful woman. This is just easy contextual analysis, right? And you desire to take her to be your wife. And again, you can go into the term for the word desire there. That's very important. And you take her to be your wife, not a concubine, not to rape her. No, this is a whole protocol that you got to follow for her to be your wife. There's a word for concubine in the text. They're not using it here. And you bring her home to your house. Again, that's part of the marriage ceremony. When a man takes a woman into his house, he becomes the Baal or head of household. That is what distinguishes him when you go into the law of Deuteronomy chapter 22, right? That's what distinguishes him, the Baal, which is head of household, the husband. There's no word for husband in Hebrew. Context denotes how that word should be defined. Okay? When he takes a woman into his house, he becomes the Baal. He becomes the head of household. When that act happens, she is his wife. Now, mind you, that's the end part of the process of the marriage protocol. That if time allows, I'll get into it. May not have enough time to do it. We're going to do a part 2 if I don't be able to do it. But that is important. The context gives it away. She shall shave her head and pare her nails, and she shall take off the clothes in which she was captured, and shall remain in your house, and lament her father and her mother a full month. Why? Because they were probably killed during the war. And it says nothing here about this woman being a Bethulah, being a virgin. So more than likely, she may have been another man's wife prior. But typically, the protocol for war is that the Israelites will kill off all the men and the women that have known a man and only keep the virgins and the children. So this could be any of those things, but more than likely, it is a rule over a virgin. So we can assume that even though the text does not say that, right? Then it says, after that, you may go into her and be her husband. So the key word is you give her time to mourn. You see that? A rapist don't give you no time to do nothing. They just take it. And a rapist is not going to marry his victim. Typically speaking. Now, in today's times, that might be a little different. In some situations, I know that may have happened, but that is atypical, especially from the text perspective, okay? And it says, you go into her, be her husband, and she shall be your wife. You see, now they're married. How do we know that is marriage and not rape? It's because her status is not diminished. It's not diminished to the point where she becomes a slave. Actually, by him doing this, he has increased her status, her social status. How do we know? Verse 14 says, but if you no longer delight in her, you shall let her go where she wants. You don't want to be with her no more, but let her go. And it says, but you shall not sell her for money. She is no longer a slave. She's no longer a captive. Her status has been increased. Nor shall you treat her as a slave since you have humiliated her. Now, that's the word some people will go to and say, oh, see, he raped her. No. More than likely, she was a virgin, even though the text doesn't say it. He took her as his wife, brought her into his home, allowed her to mourn, went through the shaving of the head, paring of the nails, and then after that, then he's allowed to be her husband, and she's allowed to be his wife. It's a whole process that they go through, okay? Now, during that process, if he decides they want to separate, he cannot sell her. She's not a slave no more. She's not a captive. Her status in her social context has been increased. You can't treat her as a slave, but you have humiliated her. What does humiliate mean? That means you have laid with her. If she's a virgin, you have taken ownership of that virginity, that token of her modesty. You have taken it from her. You have known her. And the way that's depicted in the ancient Near East is different than what is depicted today. But this is not rape. And I'm going to give you some other cultures and what they speak on, right? We're going back to the Cultural Background Study Bible. And it says, the Mari text also instruct that clothing and jobs be provided to captive women. The rights given to former captives are similar to those of Israelite women. Can't be raped. And demonstrate that there was no reduction of her status if divorce were to occur, which I just went over. Similar concerns are reflected in Assyrian laws, in which married former captives are required to dress like ordinary Assyrian women of that social class. Cultural Background, Study Bible, pages 331, footnote 21, verses 10 to 14. This is not rape. Anybody who says this is rape has no clue what they're talking about. And I hope the one who posted that on my comment section of my post on Facebook, I hope you're in here watching this. Let's keep it moving. We're going source after source after source, contextually, intertextually, culturally. We're not playing games. All right? Now let's move on to the next section. All right? Let's see how much we can get to. Go to the next section. Scene 3 is rape. Now, by the time we get to the end of this, we're going to define rape according to the ancient Reefs. But we already defined rape according to Western culture, Western society. I gave that definition to you earlier. There's also a legal ordinance that determines what is classified as rape. That's Western culture. Rape, we're going to get to in the ancient Greece, has a more broader sense. And that is probably why you find that as a translation. So either it could come from dogma, or for one using that word because it is considered that in another culture. However, it may not have the same connotations that we carry here in the English language. You're going to see this as we get through. This is very important, right? So I'm going to give you some episodes of actual rape. This is important. Please pay attention to what I'm going through. This is extremely important, okay? Let's go into some scriptures for rape, and you'll see that section in your PDF, okay? So here we go. Devarim chapter 22, verse 23, or Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 23. Now, for the record, this lecture is going to a general audience, so I can only go but so deep. It's going to a general audience, right? When we have our Q&A, I'll get into more detail in regards to these things that we're discussing, right? So those of you who have the VIP ticket, you are invited to an exclusive party where we go and do a YouTube Q&A, only exclusive to you, where we can go and unpack all of this stuff, right? The rest of you out there, if you're interested and you're watching this, please sign up for our Patreon, www.patreon.com/divine prospect, because as a patron, you'll also be invited to this party, okay? Now watch this. Deuteronomy 22, verse 23. If a virgin is engaged to a man and another man meets her in the city, keyword is city, this is important, and goes to bed with her, you must bring the two of them to the gate of that city and stone them to death, the young woman, because she did not cry out. That is the expectation if you're raped. You must cry out. If not for your sake, because I know some women that happens and they don't say nothing, right? Because they are afraid of retribution from their attacker. They're afraid from, their social status within the community is diminished or reduced. I completely understand that. However, if you don't speak out, then it's going to happen to other victims and you will be responsible for it because you did not say anything. So when this happens, you have elders you can go to for protection. You have men in your family you can go to for protection. And if it's the man in your family that's causing it, you have the elders of the city that sit at the gate that form what we call the Sahedrin, or a council that you can consult with anonymously to get the support you need from a rapist. This was all entrenched in the culture. So the woman does have protection. It may not be 911 like today, but that was their 911 of that day. And she did not cry in the city. The city has a multitude of people gathered together in an urbanized environment, urbanized settlement. There's plenty of people for her to cry out to and say that this act has happened to her, right? It says, in the city, and the man, because he violated his neighbor's fiance. In this way, you will purge evil from among you, right? Now, if she did not cry out, if she didn't say nothing, she's complicit. If it's actual rape, then she should have cried out. The fact that she did not cry out means that she was complicit. But you'll see in verse 25, this is important. Verse 23, 24 says she didn't cry out, so therefore she was complicit and a willing participant in the act. So therefore, because she is betrothed to a man, the capital punishment or penalty is the same as if she was married to a man and committed adultery. They're both to be stoned. They both get the penalty, right? But let's say, for example, verse 25, but if the man came across the engaged woman in the field where there's little to no people out there, right? And overpowered, excuse me, azik, kazik, that's important. The root is kazakh, and you're probably familiar with that root. That's very important. And raped, shechav, meaning he laid with her. That's the key thing. He laid with her. Now, it's translated here as rape, but that's not a good translation. He had sex with her, right? But watch this. Then only the rapist must die. You must not do anything to the young woman. She has done nothing deserving of death. This case is the same as when someone attacks another person and murders him. So the context is telling you that this attacker did it by force. The word chazak indicates it was done by force. See that? He overpowered, he forcibly took it. It's equal to murder. It's a capital offense. For the man met her in the field, and the engaged woman cried out, but there was no one to rescue her. If it was complicit and consensual, and there was consent and participation, she wouldn't cry out. It would be their little secret. But the fact that she did cry, but there was nobody there in the field to hear her, they're only going to get the attacker. Deuteronomy 20 and 30, you will be engaged to a woman, these are the curses, and another man would rape her. Yiskabena, that's from the root shagal. He's going to ravage her. He's going to take advantage of her. You will build a house, but not live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but not even begin to use it. So you're going to betroth a woman, but another man, the enemies who are subjecting you to their rule because they're coming in because you're not obeying the statutes, laws, and commandments, now they're going to take your wife or your betrothed wife or your engaged wife or your fiance, and they're going to ravage her. That can be translated as rape because that is war crimes that occur. When one entity goes and empowers another entity, again, they take the women and they rape her. However, Israelites, they have a boundary. You cannot rape a woman who's a captive. If you want her, I just read for you earlier what the protocol is. See, Yah puts everything in check. Everything's done in decency and in order. But in this act, Israel's enemies who overtook them took their women and ravaged. That's rape. And that's something that was a common war tactic in the ancient Near East. Judges chapter 19, verse 22. They were having a good time when suddenly, and you can read Judges 19 for the full context, when suddenly some men of the city, some good-for-nothings, that's important because someone who rapes somebody else is good for nothing. They shouldn't even be here. They're good for nothing. Surrounded the house and kept beating on the door. They said to the old man who owned the house, send out the man who came to visit you so we can take carnal knowledge of him. The man who owned the house went outside and said to them, no, my brothers, don't do this wicked thing. After all, this man is a guest in my house. Don't do such a disgraceful thing. Here are my virgin daughter and my guest's concubine. So this is a wicked act. Lot did something very similar. All right, it wasn't Abraham. He was Abraham's liability that he brought along with him. Abraham should have never brought Lot. He was told to leave his family, but he brought Lot. That's his endearment to Lot. So therefore, Lot was his liability. In this case, in the book of Judges, any man did what was right in his own sight. This is wicked. He tried to give his daughter to these evil, good-for-nothing men and offered his guest, I think he was the priest, the guest's concubine to these men as well. This is wicked. This is evil. This is what happens when you don't have Torah in effect. Society, your culture breaks down. And we can see that all throughout the Tanakh as a common theme. Right? So it says, I will send them out and you can abuse them and do to them whatever you like. This is rape. He is inviting rape of these women. They're not protected in that home. But don't do such a disgraceful thing to this man. He's protecting a man, a grown man, over his daughter. That's wicked as hell. All right? The men refused to listen to him. The men didn't even want the women. So the Levite grabbed his concubine and made her go outside. This ninja is wicked. They raped her. And the word there is yada. They knew her. So technically that word should not be rape. It should mean they had sex with her, right? But then following up and abused her. The word alal. Alal. That's the root word. Weyit alehu. Right? Weyit alelu. They took her and abused her. They did her grinding. And they did it all night long until morning. Then they let her go. So what this is showing you is that when a man rapes a woman, he don't make her his wife. He doesn't love her. He's just interested in the act, and he's moving on. Is that what happened with Shechem and Dinah? I wonder. All right, here's another famous case right here. We're going to go into 2 more scriptures, and then I'm going to pause. Let me see, where we at? We're halfway through it. And then I'm going to pause. But let me get through this. I'm going to finish this up. We got about 12, 15 minutes. I'm going to get through what I can. And again, I'll do a part 2. And for everybody who signed up to watch this, you get access to part 2 for free. Okay? So let's read this one. Something that some of you are probably familiar with. 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 7. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, go to your brother Ammon's house and prepare food for him. So Tamar went to her brother Ammon's house where he was lying down, and she took dough and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and emptied it out before him, but he refused to eat. And Ammon said, send out everyone from me. So everyone went out from him. Then Ammon said to Tamar, bring the food into the chamber that I may eat from your hands. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them into the chamber to Ammon, her brother. But when she brought them near him to eat, he took hold. Wayachazek. It's the Hethel verb, which is the causative of the root chazak, of her, and said to her, come, lie with me, my sister, Akoti. She answered him, no, my brother, do not violate te'an neni. This is from the same root, anah. Do not humiliate me. Do not put shame on me. Because it's going to be shameful in her community. Do not disgrace me by violating me. For such a thing is not done in Israel. We know the law says you can't sleep with your sister. And then on top of that, to rape your sister, that's a double whammy right there. And it says, do not do this outrageous or disgraceful thing. As for me, where could I carry my shame? And as for you, you would be as one of the outrageous fools, a good for nothing in Israel. Now, therefore, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. But he will not listen to her, and being stronger, remember, we went into that. There was a cow verb, and the root is chazak. Then her, overpowered, put a strength on her. He violated. This is what he did. The PL, which means it was an intensive, the root is anah, her, and lay, yiskav, which is from the root shakav, lay with her. This right here is a violation. This is rape, clear rape. Do you see the other adverbs that are there? The other verbs being used? He overpowered her. He raped her. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 16. Their children will be smashed to pieces before their very eyes. Their houses will be looted and their wives shashas, which means ravaged. This is rape. This happens in the ancient East. Whenever there's war, the men are carried captive or killed off, and the women are taken and raped. Isaiah is speaking about this in regards to the children of Israel for their disobedience. And not just children of Israel, from Babylon as well, on how they're dealing with Israel, right? So, all of this is important, right? Now, I'm going to go into this last source, and then we're going to go into part 2, all right? This is a lot to go over, but this is going to give you a lot of insight. Again, looking at the comparative cultural analysis of other cultures that was at the same time to see historically how things happen, all right? And once I go over this, I'm going to pause on the lecture, and then we're going to go from part 2, all right? So let me get through this, and then we're going to do part 2 where we got to go into the other parts of what you have here. Okay. All right. So let's go into this. Right. This is called "Women in the Ancient Race" by Martin Stoll. What is called rape in English is known by a variety of different terms in other European languages. By all in French, Vergewaltigung in modern German, and Verkrachting in Dutch. Whatever word we see use, whatever word we use, it is universally acknowledged to be a crime. Whenever we speak of it, we immediately think that it occurred against her will. In a Sumerian wise saying, it is referred to in the most direct terms as "do not commit violence of the penis on a man's daughter." The inner courtyard will get to know of it. A later Akkadian version reads, "You shall not rape the daughter of a man with violence." Now, this word here, shag gasti, right? Nakabu. Again, when we do the Q&A, I'll go over the language in regards to Akkadian and Sumerian in our Q&A, and I'll break out the lexicon so you can see these words there and what it meant culturally to those people. But we're looking at Israel in respect to the other ancient Near Eastern cultures, right? The community assembly shall get to hear of you. The law books are almost our only source of information about what happened in practice. Our remark is appropriate here about what could be meant by the word violence. And certain laws, M. Civil has suggested that the Sumerian word agar is concerned with trickery rather than violence, so deception would be a better translation. In Exodus 22:16, we indeed read, "When a man seduces a virgin who is not yet betrothed," the Hebrew verb that is used is patah, to persuade. And in the Mishnah, in the chapter about rape, a distinction is made between seduction, patah, and overpowering, anas. We talked about the overpowering because seduction is seen as deceptive. Different fines apply, which we see in the scriptures we read about when it occurs. Okay? All right? A seducer pays 3 amounts, a violent man 4. Oh, wait, hold on. Where are we at? Oh, yes. All right? A seducer pays 3 amounts, a violent man 4. A seducer pays for humiliation, for devaluation, and then also the fine. A violent man must pay over and above this for the pain. The fine is to be levied. That's to be levied was the one of 50 shekels of silver referred to in Deuteronomy 22 verses 28 to 29. Independently, E. Schlechter argued that the Akkadian equivalent dashu means both violence and deception also means that the act was perpetrated against her will. C. Wilk opposes the opinion that agar and dasu refer to deception and maintains that violence is meant. As to the Akkadian verb dashu, recently published texts from Mari confirm the two meanings seen by Schlechter, and in some passages to intimidate fits the context, especially in the expression ina awatim dasu, to exert verbal pressure, in contrast to exert force, ina imukim. We will translate agar by to intimidate. The Bible story about the rape of Tamar, princess in David's palace, by her brother Ammon is recounted in 3 phases. In 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 7 and 14, first he does not listen to her voice. Keep in mind how rape works. We're going to break it down. He didn't listen to her voice, then he rapes. So the verb there, where we at? The verb there is ana, which means to humiliate. And finally, he lies with her. In Akkadian, the verb nakabu, which literally means to pierce, is exclusively used in context of rape. And it is cognate with the Hebrew verb nakab, with the same meaning, from which is derived the abstract noun nekeba, which means female. As used in the phrase male and female, he created them. Genesis 1 and 27. The word for man comes from the word to remember. The word female is nekeba. In cases of rape, the Mesopotamian law books are interested in deciding first whether the woman was betrothed or married, and then whether she was really raped against her will. Scripture breaks this down for you, but I'm showing you in other cultures. The rape of an unmarried girl is raised in a school text containing some dark paragraphs of Sumerian law. If he should deflower the daughter of a man on the street, and her father and her mother do not know it, he says, and her father and her mother shall give her to him in marriage. This is disturbing. This is not Torah culture. This is culture that other societies engage with. If he should deflower the daughter of a man on the street, and her father and her mother know it, The rapist denies that he knew, he shall go and stand in the gate of the God. That term rapist is, like I said, they debated on what it is, but you got to look at the entire context. The text gives the impression that by standing on the street, the girl is acting like a prostitute and that the unsuspecting man cannot be reproached. Landsberger thinks that because the parents in 8 know, it must mean that they have put the girl to prostitution. And again, scripture says, do not give your daughters to prostitution. It may be surprising that the man in another case, according to 7, was still allowed to marry her. This is, however, the solution in the Middle Assyrian laws and elsewhere, where we find a comprehensive range of locations listed. Location plays a role in regards to rape in these cultures as well. If a man regarding the daughter of a man, a virgin who lives in the house of her father, her blank is not besmirched. Her narrowness, her narrowness has not been opened. She is not married, and no demand has been made on the house of her father. If the man has forcibly seized the girl and raped her, whether in the middle of the city or on the plain, or at night on the street or in the shed, or at a city festival celebration, then the father of the girl shall take the wife of the man who has slept with the girl and give her to be raped. He shall not send her back to her husband, he shall take her. Very disturbing stuff, right? The father shall give his violated daughter to a violator in marriage. If he has no wife, then the man who slept with the girl shall give a triple of silver, the price of a virgin, to her father. Her violator shall marry her. He shall not reject her. If the father does not wish it, then he shall receive the silver, a triple for a virgin. He shall give his daughter in marriage to whomsoever he wishes. If a girl should give herself to a man, then the man shall swear the oath, and they shall not take action against his wife. The man who slept with her shall give a triple of silver, the price of a virgin. The father shall do with his daughter as he wishes. The first law is couched in difficult language. We follow the school of thought, which understands not besmirched, as indicated the girl was of a premenstrual age. By the narrowness not yet open, the following phrase of life would be indicated, and then there follows not married. The Mishnah speaks of raped girls from their 3rd year of life. The list of places where rape could occur is not intended to define particular locations, but to mean anywhere at all. That the wife of the violator should be penalized is a form of ius talionis, an eye for an eye, a 2-for-2, which we also find elsewhere in these laws. G. Cardassia remarks angrily, it is not enough to say that the wife is subordinate to her husband. She is no more than a part of him, and the guilty person is punished in her, just as though he had been punished in his own body through mutilation. As far as we know, no other ancient law renders a free person so totally deprived of his or her personality. This is other cultures that Israel was amongst. Israel had a particular standard. By looking at these other cultures, they created a standard. Before we become really angry, it is good to read what B. Landsberger says. He sees the whole Assyrian law book as one for Assyrian professors. This is to say it is a law book which takes a simple statute and then expands it with supplementary circumstances, such as the physical condition of the girl and the location of the crime. Now, Landsberger is another scholar, and he says, well, these things didn't actually happen, but the legal code was created so that commentary can be given and supplementary circumstances can be added to it. Landsberger counters our anger thus. The abuse and enslavement of the completely innocent wife of the rapist are highly sophisticated and the worst possible barbaric act. However, it appears to be the invention of the Assyrian lawgiver. So the barbarity is only theoretical, expressed as a possibility, as a professor of law may have felt he had the right to do. It has been argued that similar, rather theoretical casuistry is to be found in ancient Near Eastern laws dealing with how to act in cases of violence leading to abortus provocatus. Cardassia, in a later article, showed that the Assyrian legislator, by giving this punishment to be inflicted on the wife of the rapist, accords with the rules of the ius talionis. See end of chapter 31. And forced marriage, this is important, was a well-known solution for these stipulations in ancient law so that the honor of the girl could be saved. It is documented in biblical law. When a man seduces a virgin who was not yet betrothed, he must pay the bride price for her to be his wife. If her father refuses to give her To him, the seducer must pay in the silver a sum equal to the bride price for virgins. So you'll see a lot of relative languages going across cultures. There was a principle that was gathered by ancient ancestors, and as it trickled down, as societies separated and ethnogenesis occurred between people groups, now they take laws and they modify it according to what is taboo in their culture, what is permissive, and what is prohibited. That's very important. So we see that Israel is living amongst these cultures. This is what these cultures are given as a legal code, and Israel had a modified version of this to try and stay away from the barbarity of a lot of these laws and legal codes. Okay? Let me see where we are. All right, last page. That he may not later renounce her is made plain in Deuteronomy 22:9. A much older parallel which illustrates this principle was discovered some time ago. It was a treaty from 2400 BC between the cities of Ebla and Abarsal, which unexpectedly has two clauses about sexual relationships. G. Petinato thinks that the first concern adultery with the married woman, Dam Gurush, where garments and cattle make up the fines. The second one is about a young girl, a Sikil, which Petinato translates as if a virgin is concerned, they shall observe carefully her behavior and listen to the explanations of these two, and he shall marry her. More recently, Dio Edzard has commented on the text and thinks that it refers to normal situations that arise when people are traveling to another country. It is the payment for providing excessive and lavish hospitality and could be entitled a good night in Abarsa. This is his translation. Someone sleeps with a woman from the household of a man, he will give blank a garment and blank a cloth and 3 cattle. If that young woman agrees and confirms this, he will blank about her and he will marry her. A case that possibly occurred in real life relates to an accusation that the mayor of Nuzi abused his power, including a complaint that he had slept Nekul with a woman. This seems like rape, but he denied doing it. And this is all from Women in the Ancient East by Martin Stoll, pages 254, 255, and pages 258 to 260. We source up. We source up. I'm showing you this. So when people make these false claims against Scripture, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, let me see where we at. I think we're done for now. Let me see where we at. Where are we at? Let me see. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna finish this section up. And then part 2 will go into Dinah and Hamor and all the way into we're doing a manuscript, evidence comparison and all that. So let me finish this up. If you look on your sheet, there's only 5 scriptures left. So I'm gonna run through them real quick, and we're gonna come to a stopping point. All right. So the next section of this is Gentile marriage prohibitions. Okay, Gentile marriage prohibitions. All of this information, legal code that we're reading in Torah, is going to have its place in the narrative of Shechem and Dinah. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 1, when Yah, your power, brings you into the land that you are entering to take possession of and clears away many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Remember, the priests are around this time, and that priesthood lineage is responsible for the narrative that we find in Genesis, right? So some say that Moses authored it, the priests took it, and the scribes redacted it, right? But they did so according to the legal code that was already given to them. So that's how you should see the narratives, or Agadah in Bereshit or Genesis chapter 34, right? So we know that these other enemies that are mightier than you, and when Yah, your power, gives them over to you and you defeat them, then you must devote them to complete destruction. Haram, complete destruction. You shall make no covenant with them and show no mercy with them. You shall not intermarry with them, giving your daughters to their sons or taking their daughters for your sons. And they will turn away your sons from following me to serve other powers. Then the anger of Yah will be kindled against you and will destroy you quickly. So we see the prohibitions against intermarriage with these particular entities. That's very important. So again, the author, the prescribed, is writing the narrative of Genesis through the lens, the corrective lens of the legal code of Torah. Joshua verse 23, verse 11, therefore watch yourselves carefully that you love Yah your power. For if you turn away and cling to the rest of these nations that remain among you, and you intermarry and associate with them, know for sure that Yah your power will no longer drive out these nations before you. Instead, they will become for you a snare and a trap, a scourge in your sides and a thorn in your eyes, until you perish from this good land that Yah your power has given you. Again, very strict prohibitions against these other nations. Remember, Shechem is a Hivite. Judges chapter 14 and verse 3, his father and mother said to him, is there not a woman among the daughters of your relatives or among all our people that you must go to take a wife from the uncircumcised Philistines? An uncircumcised Philistine is not in covenant with Yah. Therefore, you will be unequally yoked. We'll see some of this information going on in the Shechem and Dinah account in Genesis chapter 34. But Samson said to his father, look at him. Every man did what was right in his own sight. Get her for me, for she is right in my eyes. Obviously, he did not have Torah, because he would know that he should not be doing it. Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 30, we will not give our daughters to the people of the land or take their daughters for our sons. Very strict prohibition in regards to intermarriage with Gentile nations, especially Gentile nations that are uncircumcised. If you're Gentile and uncircumcised, that's a double whammy. That's a no-no. That is a taboo to intermarry with them. Okay, we're going to stop right here. We're going to stop right here. All right? We're going to scene 4. Oh, actually, no, sorry. Scene 5. This is one scripture, scene 5, which is women's inheritance. And we'll go to scene 6, Shechem and Dinah in part 2. So women's inheritance. Now, remember I mentioned earlier from the Cultural Background Study Bible in their commentary, right, where inheritance is very important. So that's why you like Dinah was not supposed to sleep with any other Gentile nation. The Hivites is from a Canaanite, a cursed bloodline, and they're Gentile and they're uncircumcised. She should not sleep with them, because what happens is that child that comes from them gets the inheritance from the Hivites. And if those children intermingle with the children of her brothers or somewhere along down the line, some of that inheritance is taken away. We're going to find this out when we read this, because if Dinah outlived Jacob, but she had her brothers and she was separated from her brothers, say her brothers were not around, then she would fall under this law we're about to talk about, this last portion. Let's get into this real quick, and then we'll stop right here, okay? So Numbers of Bamidbar, chapter 36, verse 6. This is what Yah commands concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. Let them marry whom they think best. Only, so they have an option to marry whoever they want, but only they shall marry within the clan of the tribe of their father. Again, a prescribed who is familiar with the legal code, who constructed the legal code, is now constructing the narrative or redacting the narrative that may have been authored by Moses. And now he is doing so from the lens of the legal code of Torah. This is important. So now we got an inheritance situation. If you go back early in this lecture, when I talked about the inheritance feature from the commentary from the cultural studies background, the cultural backgrounds study Bible, you'll see why this is important, right? And it says, the inheritance of the people of Israel shall not be transferred from one tribe to another. So you can't even do it amongst the tribes. What makes you think that you can do it amongst Gentile nations who are uncircumcised? For every one of the people of Israel shall hold on to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. Her children would lose their inheritance from Jacob if she had bore children with Shechem. But yet, some midrash will say opposite. I'm going to leave it alone, okay? So it says, and every daughter who possesses an inheritance in any tribe of the people of Israel shall be wife to one of the clan of the tribe of her father. Now, looking at this, you can see where some of that Judaistic or rabbinic midrash agadah comes from, because they're looking at this and they're like, oh, well, she was probably supposed to marry Esau or Jacob or somebody else or one of her brothers or whatever, some craziness, right? They will take a principle from scripture and create halakha. Well, no, not halakha if it's applicable, but more so agadah in a way to interpret the narrative or give some more commentary on the narrative. Remember, it is just midrash. It is not scripture. Okay? And the reason why shall be wiped to one of the clan of the tribe of fathers, so that every one of the people of Israel may possess the inheritance of their fathers. So no inheritance shall be transferred from one tribe to another, for each of the tribes of the people of Israel shall hold on to its inheritance. Also, the Hivites are supposed to be wiped out, which we just read earlier. Supposed to be wiped out. If Dinah slept with Shechem and had a child, that child is the seed of his father, and he will preserve the Hivite bloodline. Now we can see why her consensual act was taboo. Gets deeper. It gets deeper. Let's finish this. And it says, so no inheritance shall be transferred from one tribe to another, for each of the tribes of the people of Israel shall hold on to its own inheritance. The daughters of Zelophehad did as Yah commanded Moses. Verse 12, they were married into the clans of the people of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of their father's clan. Now I'm going to stop right there because we are halfway through. The next scene is Shechem and Dinah. I need you to go back over this lecture, take all that information, and now when we go into Shechem and Dinah, we're going to get more in depth into the lexicon or the lexical entries, and we're going to go more into the context. We're going to go back and reference the other scriptures that we just used for intertextual analysis. We're going to do some other narratives and other cultures and do comparative cultural analysis that way, right? We're going to do contextual analysis by reading the entire context, not just taking one portion of it. We're going to go heavy into it, and you will see, once we finish off this lecture, the preponderance of the evidence is on the side of Shechem did not rape Dinah. Stop the cap. Take your hat off and stop the cap. All right? So we're going to end there. The second portion is going to be dynamic. You thought this was good. I just busted up some dogmas and gave you some basics to lead you in, as a prerequisite to lead you in to the scene, the final act. And then we're going to go over a lot more stuff, like application, conclusions, like applications, marriage proposals, how they should look, and all of that. We're going to go heavy into part 2. So thank you, everybody, for watching this, bearing with me for all the technical difficulties we had. I apologize for that. Thank you for investing in this lecture. Again, everybody who paid and was watching, you will be given a replay link so you can go back over this. For those of you who are part of the Patreon and your Patreon patrons, I'm going to edit this video, and it'll be much cleaner than the live stream. And I'm going to put this PowerPoint right beside it instead of seeing the TV, and it'll be much clearer, better, easier to follow. And you have the PDF document. You'll have the PowerPoint next to me, kind of talking and animating. So you'll get everything in one package. All you got to do is sign up for our Patreon, www.patreon.com/divineprospect. Right, sign up for the $20 tier, upgrade to the $20 tier, or if you're new, sign up for the $20 tier. And every time we do presentations like this, you'll get the full experience. Okay. So again, I love you guys. Thank you for watching. We're done. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed and you're ready for part 2. I mean, read this over again, man, because if you don't understand what I just went over, you're not ready for part 2 or scene 6 with Shechem and Dinah. All right. Love you guys. I see you in part 2. Peace and shalom, family. Shalom, shalom.